Bresnik from Light Reading. I'm here with Tyson Marian, who's one of our keynote speakers at Cable Next Gen Technologies and Strategies earlier today. Tyson is Chief Commercial Officer for Plume. Tyson, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks very much. Happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Sure. Tyson, questions for you. What key challenges are cable providers facing in the market today?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number, some that are more that are new but will likely be long lasting, and some that have been there for a while that are just intensifying. So when I think about that, there's really a few that come to mind immediately. I think the first and foremost, just given kind of what's happening in our world today, what's happened is that the pandemic has accelerated what we all knew was coming, which is that more people will be using more services in their homes on more devices, and that dynamic is not going to change, but it's only accelerating. What has happened with the pandemic is it's just brought it forward. And so when people talk about new normals, I mean, really the new normal for all of us is that there are going to be more services in the home. And what that means is that people are looking for better Wi-Fi service. They're looking for more security and more control over their network. And with Plume, kind of the way we see that is really a bundle of services that sit around broadband. Why that's important is kind of point two, which is there's been a tremendous marketing push on selling speed. And that only leads to kind of commoditization in the market. And there needs to be some form of differentiation. That differentiation is really this bundle of services that we believe are quite important around the broadband service itself, which leads to sort of point three, which is the cable and telco industry has done a fantastic job over the last decade, multiple decades, at selling a triple play service. That bundle of services was very important, not only from a top line revenue perspective, but with the introduction of higher programming costs, the margin contribution has reduced dramatically. And we've seen things like voice decline in numbers, video decline in numbers. And the one crown jewel that's still there is broadband. So revenue is a big component of why they love the triple play. But more important than that are the churn rates that are associated with triple play services. A triple play service typically carries somewhere between a 12 and 15% churn rate, whereas a single play service typically carries somewhere between 25 and 30%.
Right.
And so if you can bundle more services around that crown jewel called broadband and have that single play product start acting and behaving from a churn perspective the same way that a triple play did by creating emotional attachment and these new services with the consumer, I think that challenge of not being able to sell the triple play bundle as we knew it in the past can be solved with a bundle of services around broadband in the future. And of course, large tech would be the final point. Large tech is coming out with multiple services that compete directly with the cable and telco industry. And, you know, I think there are various reasons why. Ultimately, the customer relationship is probably the most important reason. But there are opportunities for us in our industry to overcome those challenges.
Okay, so Tyson, given all that, how do cable broadband service providers compete in this environment, or are they dead and buried already?
Yeah, absolutely not. The good news is that they still provide the gateway to the home. And without broadband access, there aren't any services, despite who is trying to sell those services in. The big tech companies have done a fantastic job of leveraging data in the right ways to build services. But that's where they started. We didn't in our industry. That doesn't mean that we can't catch up. I think the key for us lies in the right organization of that data and building a new suite of smart home services, which is what the customers are demanding. And if our industry doubles down on that and it starts attaching more services to the broadband pipe itself, I think that, and the focus being there that, you know, a $100 customer doesn't always have to be a $100 customer. They can be a $150 customer with a new set of smart home services. I think that's really the key there for our industry to continue strengthening that relationship with the customer, creating that emotional attachment that allows us to and justifies charging more for our services.
How can Plume help cable broadband or broadband service providers use their data more smartly?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think first and foremost is Plume is a platform company. It's a platform company that collects large amounts of data and ultimately uses that data to create new services. And those services are then exposed to end user customers and then to our broadband and cable operators for more personalized service. I think the key there is that that platform basically knows what the other hand is doing. So, for example, the customer service department has very unique and specific KPIs, and those KPIs oftentimes are monetizable. For instance, calls. Call is kind of the metric, the monetizable metric for a call center or a customer experience organization. For a marketing organization, the KPI is probably upsell or a net new subscriber. What's interesting about it is typically we all want a good user experience. And we know that calls coming into the call center are simply a symptom of a poor user experience. So in the case where we're all working from home and we have a 100 megabit service package, and ultimately we're working and schooling from home, and calls start to come in about the service level, to me, that's an opportunity to move from a 100 megabit package to possibly a 250 megabit package, right? And ultimately monetizing the unit and getting rid of calls, but also monetizing the customer in a new way, which is I'm going to upsell you to a new broadband package. But what's key there is they're both leveraging the exact same data, but both hands need to know exactly what the other is doing. And so that's where Plume comes in, is it's a data platform that looks across all different organizations, or can look across all organizations and organize the data to meet specific unique KPIs that ultimately are monetizable.
Tyson, are there any specific examples of cable or broadband providers that are already capitalizing on the data opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. We have very large customers like Comcast and Charter, down to very small customers like Point Broadband or Armstrong. And across the board, they've essentially bought into leveraging a platform that collects data. And that data, again, is being exposed in the form of end user services or to the ISP to provide more personalized customer care. Gives the ISP more visibility and understanding of what's happening inside that home. Where we shine on the revenue side of the ledger is that our customers are selling this new bundle of smart home services on average for about $12 incremental per month as an attached to the broadband service.
Right.
And that's an average, because in a lot of cases, what our customers do is they deploy our service to 100% of their customers and worry about the revenue side of the ledger later. And the reason is because of the operational expense savings that we provide. So the operational expense savings are identifying potential issues with customers before the customer even knows they happen. And in some cases, having the machines solve the problems before anybody knows about them. So what our customers are enjoying there and capitalizing on are 50% reduction in Wi-Fi and internet related calls. Typically about 75 to 80% of the broadband base calls in every year with the Wi-Fi and internet related call.
Right.
Of those calls, we're deflecting 50% of them. They're no longer coming in. But of those calls, about 20% turn into truck rolls. And of the truck rolls that would otherwise take place, we're grounding 2/3 of those trucks. They never otherwise roll. And again, this goes across the large customers as well as the small customers. And so they're leveraging that data both on the revenue side as well as on the expense side for a value proposition that makes a ton of sense for them. So that to me is how our folks are capitalizing on the data opportunity.
Okay, great. Thanks for the insights, Tyson.
Yeah, absolutely.